Welcome to Playdate. Welcome to episode 1 of Playdate. This series is going to be for parents, caregivers, other therapists, and anyone who is interested in helping communicate with children through their natural language of play. I'm a registered play therapist, and I am going to take you inside the playroom to see how I might use the skills of non-directive play therapy to work on an issue with a child. Then we'll talk about how you might apply some of those same skills with the children in your life. In today's episode, we are going to talk about transitions. We just transitioned from summer into fall, and for most children in America, that means going back to school. A new school year means new things to learn, a new grade, a new teacher, new friends in your class. The key word here is new. Transitions bring new things and we don't know what's going to happen. That can be really scary for people. So that's important to remember when working through transitions. Transition means that we are moving from one phase to another phase. Sometimes transitions are easy. We do them every single day. Going to school is a good example of that. When I was a counselor at an elementary school, I know that the regularity of the schedule was a good container for a lot of kids. Sometimes these transitions can be challenging, and sometimes they can be really challenging for some kids. These are transitions that are anticipated. Kids know they're going to happen. We know that they're going to happen. Sometimes what makes a transition tough is that you are pulling a kid away from an activity that they are really enjoying. You're asking them to do something that is much less preferred. In those cases, you might have to set a lot of challenging boundaries. And sometimes transitions just sneak up on you. When I worked at the school, kids would come back from a weekend and I would think, you've really grown up. You have changed just over the weekend. Developmental transitions can be mismatched sometimes. Sometimes you're growing bigger developmentally than you are emotionally, or you're growing more emotionally than you are physically. So it's hard to keep boundaries around all of that. Sometimes outside forces make us transition in ways that we don't even want to. That might be a divorce, a death, a fire, a global pandemic. These kinds of transitions are not expected and they can really blindside us. They can even traumatize us. We're going to watch a video now that shows how I might handle a transition in the playroom. In this video, I am using the skills of child-centered play therapy, working on transitioning out of the playroom. I will see you on the other side. Susan, we have 5 more minutes of our playtime. Already? Oh, it feels like we just started. You're disappointed. Feels like you just started playing. Susan, we have 1 more minute of our playtime. Okay, I'm gonna start drawing. Susan, our time in the playroom is up. I just started my drawing. I just want to finish my drawing. That's it. I just have a couple more things to do. You really want to finish your drawing, but we've run out of time. So it's time to go. Okay, but I'm going to help you clean up, okay? I'm gonna put this here and put this away. You don't want to leave. You want to help clean up, but you know that I clean up. It's time to go. Let's go. When did you get these cats? So cool. You really like those cats, but the playtime is over and it's time to go. Those cats are going to be here next week. Are you sure you don't need me to help you clean up? You had such a good time in here today. You don't even want to leave. One of the rules of the playroom is that we leave on time. Come on. Your parents are outside. Hey, you better get over here. You can pick from this prize bucket before you leave. Come on. Hey, come on. Didn't your parents say that you were going to go to the park after this? You better get a move on. I understand that you don't want to leave. If you don't stand up and walk outside the playroom, I'm going to have your parent come in and bring you out. Okay. Bye, kitty. When a child is working on dealing with change in their life, it can often show up in the transitions in the playroom. The primary transitions in the playroom are coming into the playroom and leaving the playroom. Let's go over the core skills that I used in that video. Structuring. I am giving a 5-minute warning and a 1-minute warning to let them know that the end of the session is coming. Reflection. Reflection is simply verbally stating what you're seeing from a child in real time, also including felt reflection, which is noticing how they're feeling. Limit setting. Because in this example, it's the end of the session, it's tough to stick to my usual kind of limit setting, but I show several different approaches that I might take. Unconditional positive regard. It might be hard for me when a child doesn't leave on time for the same reason it's hard for anybody when you don't leave on time. You might have things to do. Unconditional positive regard doesn't mean that I love what my client is doing. It means that I'm going to respect them as a human being regardless. There's nothing that they can do that's going to make them lose my respect. How does this work in your real life? Real life is much trickier. It's more public. You're more rushed. The stakes are higher, but you can take the basic principles of child-centered play therapy and apply them to your real life. Let's talk about structuring. I use the child-centered play therapy approach of structuring to begin and end each session. This way a child always knows what's going to happen next. How can you do this at home? Well, you can establish your own routines around anticipated transition. Morning and evening are great places to start. What do you say every morning to get the day started? How do you make that first connection? Can you do it the same way every time? When you're going to bed, how much notice can you give them that you're going to be separating to go to sleep? How many stories are you going to read? Can you do it the same way every time? Older kids and teenagers also need routines around waking up and going to bed. If you branch out from the morning and evening routines, there are so many opportunities to develop routines around transitions during the day. The day becomes the week, and the week becomes the month, and the month becomes the year, and beyond. Decide how you want to provide structure around transitions and stick to it. Within the safety of this structure, your child is going to develop confidence, and they're going to learn themselves how to set their own routines around transitions when they get older. Let's talk about reflection. Reflection is a way of speaking to your child to see, hear, and understand what's going on. I used reflection in this video to mirror my client's disappointment and let them know that I got it. They did not want to leave. Those are valid feelings. They don't override my boundaries. Reflection also gives children language for what they're feeling in that moment. They're feeling it. You're saying it. If it's wrong or it doesn't hit right, they can let you know. No, I'm not disappointed. I'm mad. Reflection is going to help your child develop emotional intelligence. It's going to help them understand how they operate. Sometimes we need to set limits when transitions are occurring. That makes sense because transitions are a destabilizing time. Little transitions can descend into chaos without structure and limits. Limit setting can look so different across settings, across transitions, across developmental stages. Here's some things you want to keep in mind. Make sure that the limits that you're setting are achievable. Don't write a check that you can't cash. Don't threaten something that you can't actually back up. If you decide to set a consequence as a part of your limit, make sure that it is proportionate to what's going on. Save the canceling of events for really, really, really big things. Your limits and boundaries need to be firm and consistent. It's important to follow through with the boundaries that you set. If you follow through consistently with the small boundaries, it will matter when it comes to the big boundaries. I want to address the limit setting alternatives that I provided in this video and how you can apply those to your home. Sometimes a kid just needs a restating of the limit, or they just need to hear, this is the rule. Try it. Sometimes a kid needs a transitional object to help them feel secure as they're moving from one space to the next. That's really the purpose of a prize. A child often has no idea what's going to happen next in their life when a transition is occurring. So information can be really helpful. And for some kids, that's how I might set it up. Some children are going to need to push things all the way right to the very edge to find out what's going to happen, and they find out. You might have to go to the last resort. In my case, it would be having a parent come in and escort their child out. And I want to say that's never happened to me. Last skill is unconditional positive regard. When a child shows up in a challenging way around transitions, I'm assuming that's the work that they came to me to do. You can think of it that way too. This is something that the child in your life is working on. Transition. That's also respectful of the symbolic way that children process things. When a child is struggling with the transition, this is not a time for us to judge them, to tell them they're making us sad, to make them feel afraid with threats. Having unconditional positive regard means that we are respectful of children as human beings and the fact that they're learning and growing, and this is an opportunity for them to learn. It's our job to create the environment for them to do that. Let's spend the last part of this video talking about those big transitions, the ones that we don't expect, the ones that are scary and even traumatizing. I'm going to talk about basic psychological first aid, things that will help mitigate the traumatic experience of a very big, sudden transition. The first thing is safety and security, making sure that your child is as soon as possible to a place where they feel safe and they feel secure, whether that's being reunited with you or getting away from a situation or establishing safety in a new home. However that looks, that's going to be a very important bottom line for anybody going through a very big, scary transition. Next, you want to allow your child to vent, talk, play about what they're going through as much as they can. And you, as a parent or caregiver or somebody who loves a child, can validate their feelings through your words or through play. That would look like if your child is playing something that you think might be kind of disturbing, thinking, maybe they're expressing something through play, and encouraging them to work through it. The last things to think about are prediction and preparation. Just like people need information about what's going to happen next in small transitions, they really need it when it comes to big transitions. You don't have to tell your child all of your plans, but don't keep them in the dark. You can also talk about things that you think might happen, and you can tell them what you know, and that will prepare them for what will happen. During a big transition, you can still use all of the skills of child-centered play therapy, including limit setting. You can think about all of the alternative skills too. Supporting children through transitions will help them learn to trust themselves. It will help them not fear the inevitable, and that's what we can control. We can't control the fact that change will happen in our lifetime and in our child's lifetime. We can work with them and provide the time and space for them to become resilient when it comes to facing change and transition. Thank you so much for joining me on this, our first episode of Playdate. My name is Jennifer Sims. I am a registered play therapist and the clinical director at the Redwood Center for Children and Families. Have a great month.